Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by the Michelle Murray. Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening, Pete. Thank you for having me.
Listen, thanks for coming on. So, Michelle, tell us, who are you, what are you doing, where are you from?
Oh, that's a big one. My name's Michelle Murray. I'm 47. I live in Newry, County Down. I am, first and foremost, I've been a hairdresser up until recently for 30 years, 20 of them self-employed. I was an adult returner into education, and I graduated last year from Queen's University with a degree in psychology. And at present, I work as an administrator in a financial and accountancy firm. So I'm a full-time worker. I'm a full-time parent. I am married to Barry, and I have 2 dogs and 3 cats.
I mean, I'm assuming there's kids there as well.
Did I not say them? No, sorry.
We got the dogs and the cats.
Sorry, yes. I have a 19-year-old son, and I have 2 girls, 16 and 11.
Brilliant. That's a great range. You got your hands full there with all that.
Yes, it's all going on.
Come here, bridge the gap for me, but from hairdressing to psychology. What happened?
Well, what happened? Okay. Well, as I said, my youngest child is 11, and I remember one day after, just when I'd shortly resumed work, and I thought to myself, is this it? Is this my life? I'm 36 years old. I have done everything that society expected of me, and here I am. Everybody just expects me to roll over now and sort of die off because I've done what you're supposed to do. You get married, you have your kids, I did it all in the order that, society expected me to do it. I was a good girl. And here I was, all of a sudden, I woke up and thought, right, there has to be more than this. I'm only 36. I feel like I'm existing, and I am not prepared to do it any longer. I'm not just prepared to exist, because I had this like a gaping hole, for want of a better word, that I just felt there was bound to be more in me that I could offer the world, that I couldn't just be self-employed. And at this stage, see, I actually was working from home. My business was in the garage, so it meant that I could look after my children, do my school runs, and everything was great while it was working. And then all of a sudden, it just didn't work anymore. So that's when I started to think, okay, so what next? Where do you go from here? And whilst I was thinking that, I remembered that I had absolutely no formal education academically. When I was at school, I was only in school for the crack, makeup, watching, the boys go past from, the male schools, the boys' schools, watching them, the girls sitting on the walls waiting on their bus. Life was great. It was all about makeup, smoking fags, having the crack. That was as far as it went. I knew where I was going in life. I was going to be a hairdresser, and I didn't need a formal qualification at that particular time for that profession. So I pursued my goals then, and I was very happy until I wasn't happy. So I decided then, okay, I'm going to have to start taking a few steps and get some sort of education if I want to make any type of career change. So I have 2 sisters and a brother, and my youngest sister, there's a 7-year gap between us, and I kind of would have been like a second mother when she was born. I thought she was like my wee doll, could sort of wheel her around. She is a great wee champion of mine, and I said to her, I really don't want to do this for the rest of my life. There's more out there. I'd love to go back to school, but I don't think I'm fit. What do you think? So we talked about it anyway, and a few hours later she rang me and said, Michelle, I actually know somebody in SRC, and I've explained the situation, about your lack of academic achievements, blah, 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 and I've organised a phone call for you. So from there, I went and I spoke to somebody, a careers advisor, who said, yeah, you could do an adult access course, anything you like. And I thought, wow, would there be anything to do with psychology in this? So that was what started the ball rolling. I completed an access course part-time because I thought imposter syndrome at its best, maybe I wouldn't be able to complete the course. So I'll do it slow and steady. But I did complete it. And whilst I was there, the natural process when you're doing a course like that is to apply to university. And I actually laughed when I applied to university. And this is an awful thing to say, but it's the truth. I remember saying, yeah, I'll apply to university. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to apply to Queen's, because why wouldn't I? I'll never get the opportunity to apply to Queen's now. And I didn't entertain anything. I said, okay, do they do psychology degree? Yeah, I'll just see if I'm good enough to get in. Never thinking that I would get in. And I continued to set myself wee tiny goals to do better and better. And I had a fantastic teacher who, I have to say, seen something in me, and she said to me that I would either go one of two ways. I'd either be something great, or I would just fall off the wagon and just I'd leave. So she used to call me a wee power student, and she really spurred me on, you know, encouraged me to actually seriously consider university. So I passed my course with flying colours, and then was faced with the decision of taking up my place in university that I had actually got. I had a conditional offer, and I got the conditions without any bother. And then I was faced with the dilemma of going, because what that meant then was that I was going to have to put myself first, make a few adjustments with my job, because I was still working, still looking after the kids, doing all my school runs and everything around it. And I thought, not sure if I'd be able to do this. And thankfully, my husband encouraged me to go. But I didn't attend the first day because I took cold feet. And imposter syndrome again, no, it's really not for people like me. If I go today, everybody's going to know that this must have been a mistake. I get somebody else's results of the access course, because there's no way that I could have done this. So anyway, I missed the first day and was a bit, you know, annoyed that Monday night, and Barry managed to kick me out the door the next day, get me onto the bus to go day two. So I never looked back. I faced loads and loads of challenges whilst I was there, because as you can imagine, you know, when you've kids and one thing and work, there's always something unexpected that crops up that's going to sort of knock you back a bit. But I'm very determined and motivated, and I'm very driven, and I don't believe in starting something that you're going to drop out of and not finish. I don't do anything lightheartedly, and I think if you're going to do anything, you give it your best. Don't half do a job. Do it as good as you possibly can. So I did, and thankfully I graduated in 2019 with a 2-1, which I'm exceptionally proud of. So
Well done,
uh,
you. That's fantastic.
thank you. And whilst I was at university, I discovered that I discovered so many other things about myself, actually, that um, I suppose that were hidden about myself, that when you're in a cycle of being a parent and working and making ends meet and all the things that everybody else is doing, you kind of lose the run of yourself. You forget who you are as an individual. So I started to see this, you know, like independent body, you know, sort of surface. And I was like, yeah, that's not bad. I'm going to explore that a wee bit more. So I put myself out. I volunteered for everything in university that there possibly was. I did a degree plus. I'm not sure if you even know what that is. It's relatively new. You get a certificate that you do these extracurricular activities, and they give you a degree plus certificate. So it's just an added bonus with your degree. So I got that as well. I volunteered for research. I participated in Parkinson's, Dance with Parkinson's research as well. So I had the pleasure of, you know, taking part in research, which I was interested in, you know, because there was Parkinson's and dementia and Alzheimer's and things that were all related. I had quite a tie with Alzheimer's because my mother-in-law had Alzheimer's and she had it for 17 years before she died. So I was interested to know about that. I also represented the School of Psychology whilst I was at Queen's, and sort of put myself out there. I went to the SRC that I did my adult access course in as a student representative for the university. The SRC then asked me to come back and give a few motivational chats to their access students, mature students. And I was also, this is a big thing for me too. I was recognized by the university and invited to the Vice Chancellor's ball for my, I suppose they called it your Outstanding Achievement Award, because you actually go over and above what's expected of the average student. So I got a lovely lunch with the Vice Chancellor, me and maybe 100 other students from all the different schools, but that was in recognition for all of the things that I had done for the university. And as a result of that, the university invited me back to participate in research for mature students to find out what it was that the university was perhaps missing with in relation to resources and things like that in the Students' Guidance Centre. And I managed to collect data, and myself and another girl, we had written a few reports, and we had put together the first ever mature student website that was primarily focused on my own experience, and we were able to give study tips and advice, and it was fantastic. That was for the school year last year, so it has been very eventful. Going back to school was one of the most rewarding things that I probably have ever done. So that was
About
quite a long song.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it's great. I mean, so that's by my math, that's happened in basically 10 years, just over 10 years,
hmm
right? Where this is the 11th year. So
hmm
36, you're now 47. So yeah, you're 11 years in, and all that has happened.
It actually happened in less. It all happened. I started when I was 40 or 41. Yeah, so in the last probably 6 or 7 years, I decided once I went back to school, then that was me. I just sort of took off. So I love encouraging adults to return to education, and I am a great believer in not existing throughout our lives. Once we reach a certain age, people have these expectations, and I don't agree with them. I think we all have lots of different characteristics and attributes that are so beneficial to the world if we are just encouraged to actually be brave enough to show them. And I love to encourage other people to make the move. Don't stay in your comfort zone, what you know, because if you're not happy, that is, because it only makes you resentful, and you actually feel worthless, and you you go on a downward spiral. You start putting other people before yourself, and you just lose the whole run of yourself. So life is for living, not existing, for definite.
Wow, I love that. Are you proud of yourself?
Yes, I'm very proud of myself. It took me a long time to say that because I felt it was boastful, and I thought you shouldn't talk about your achievements or anything like that because it's not humble. But I have come a long way since, I suppose even in this past 2 years. And like 2 years ago, I was always one of those people that would say, that's a lovely pair of shoes you have. Oh, them are things I got them, £5 bargain basket. I always did things that in relation to every area of my life. I found it difficult to take a compliment, and always turned everything into a joke, reverted it back to the person so that it took away the embarrassment, the awkwardness, but I don't do that anymore. I said, yes, I am so proud of myself now. And as a result of that, I did other things inadvertently, which I was hoping would happen, and they did. And that was to be a good role model for my children. At the time, my son was he's very academically minded and very, very lazy at school. So I thought if I go back to school, it might encourage him to work a bit harder. It didn't. It was a complete waste of time. But he managed to do his A levels and everything else just because I suppose I encouraged him to give himself options, so it was better looking at them than for them. So I managed to limp him to the end of that with great encouragement. But with regards to my two girls who were younger, they see it in an entirely different light. They continually tell me how great I was and how courageous I was, especially my 11-year-old. Mama, you're the bravest person I know. Imagine you actually went back to school when you were so old. Like, I don't know anybody else's mommy that's so brave. So, and they actually now look at me, for help with their studying. My 16-year-old's preparing for GCSEs, and she calls me a nerd because she considers herself to be a nerd. So we're two nerds together. And I have to say, it has opened up a whole new world for me in lots of unexpected ways. So it was great, really great.
Wow, the ripples coming from that decision and from you stepping forward. I mean, that's just beautiful that, it's rippled through your kids and, through other parts of your life.
Mm-hmm. It totally changed my life, Pete. It's very hard to put into words because that sounds like such a big thing, but it actually helped me make decisions about it. I thought, right, well, if I can do this, because it was very daunting to actually go to university when you had no formal education through school, because you always doubt yourself because you've no idea. It's not even that you think that you are incapable of doing it. You have nothing to compare it with because you can't even say, well, back in the day I did my A-levels and did very badly. You've no concept of what that's like. You've no concept of revision, taking notes. Everything's brand new. So after doing that, I thought to myself, if I can do this, I can actually do anything, absolutely anything. Now, I didn't realize that I had this power within me. Making the right choices opens up a whole new world. And since then, I closed my salon. I was supposed to close in April this year and was scheduled to close. I had decided that it just wasn't for me anymore. It wasn't aligned with my values, and I was a new person and I just couldn't do it anymore. So COVID closed me down earlier, but I had prepared for another job. This job that I'm in now, it was actually in an accountancy firm. It's only a maternity cover. Thought, okay, I have nothing to do, so that I could perhaps get some emotional freedom whilst taking some time out to decide what it was I'd maybe do in the long-term future. And I have to say, I went for my interview and I told them all the things that I could do and all the things that I couldn't do. And they rang me the next day and said that I had the job and maternity wasn't starting until June. So I started my new role in June. So it has provided me with emotional freedom. I have never worked as an administrator for an international accountancy firm before. And although we're in very strange and challenging times with COVID, my job, I focus on the positive side of things always. And I look at every day how lucky I am to actually have that job to go to. Yes, it might only be for 10 months, but it might not. I'm pursuing, courses online, and I'm also doing personal development. And I have my own wee hobbies for learning different things about other people in order to help me learn more about myself. So I think life is for learning forever.
What's your fire in the belly, Michelle?
What's my fire in the belly? I love people. I love hearing people's stories that I can relate to myself. I love to be emotionally connected to I love to be emotionally connected to people that I find inspirational, people with drive and a very positive outlook. I like people who have overcome challenges in their life and have great sense of resilience, and they don't hold any resentment or bear any grudges. People like that spur me on, and I love to be in their company. I have to say I haven't met very many of them, but any that I do meet, I just instantly feel this connection with them as if I've known them all my life. I love it. It's amazing.
It's funny going back, because when you talked about that teacher, you were saying, either you're going to fall off the wagon or you're going to be the power student,
Yeah.
and I mean, how falling off the wagon, it seems, mightn't necessarily be even an option for you mentally, was it?
No, she didn't know at that stage that I wasn't a quitter, but because I was new, like I love the crack and I'm always cracking jokes, and I love a good laugh. So she probably didn't know whether or not to take me seriously, because I use my humor. She may have thought the humor was a way of covering up, insecurities or maybe lack of knowledge or whatever. But it could have been that as well. I'm sure there was a large element of that at the time now in hindsight, but I I would say it was probably the humor acting the wagon all too, but I do that all the time. I like to find humor in, especially in things that I find challenging, because it helps get me through. I find humor helps me get through loads of things. You try and find the funny side of the things, or find something that you can make a laugh out of, even if it's not funny, and it helps me sort of along. It's kind of a coping mechanism, I suppose.
I mean, you mentioned imposter syndrome there a couple of times. Talk to us about that.
I was a big imposter. I was the biggest imposter that ever went to Queen's University, and I used to take selfies when I was on my own, because I spent the first few weeks totally alone. I didn't know anybody that was going to university with me, because out of my adult access course, I was the only one who took up their place and went to university. So I remember standing outside Queen's like this, and people weren't looking at me going, in case they do find out, or I can't make it through, the first semester, or I'm kicked out at Halloween, or, and through that quite a lot. I found that very, very challenging. I have to say it right to the very end. I kept saying, I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to do it. I had to try some positive self-talk, and that we negative voice in your head saying, yeah, people like, you don't do this, you're kidding yourself. So I had to work really hard to, convince myself that I was capable, and that I wasn't an imposter, and the people weren't going to find out that I was an imposter, because I could do it. And I did do it. I was right all the time. So
When did you start in hairdressing then?
when did I start it?
Yeah.
When I was 16. But in my head, I started it when I was 7. I remember the very day, that I said, I'm going to be a hairdresser. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Why?
So I loved the creative side of it. I just was fascinated with making people look beautiful, more beautiful, and how you could actually change someone's appearance. I was fascinated by the shapes of people's faces, especially since most of us are not very symmetrical. We don't know that, but we're not, and the shapes of people's heads, and how different hairstyles could make you, either look great or awful. And I had a real passion for it. And I still do. I still do to a certain extent, but I just don't want to work at it anymore. It's not fulfilling anymore. But at the time, it was great, and I wanted to be top of my game. And I won prizes in Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, and in the United Kingdom. I also came third in the United Kingdom back in the day for a competition. And when I was doing it well. So I've always been ambitious. I just don't want to be stuck in the one. I don't want to remain in the one position and get stagnant. I want to do lots of things. I don't believe that I was put in this earth just to be a hairdresser. I did at the time, but I don't anymore. believe I was supposed to do lots of great things.
So what have you been put on this earth for then?
Oh, see, there's one of them wee questions, Pete. What have I been put on this earth for? Well, I believe wholeheartedly that I I know that I am a really good human being, and I think that I haven't shown enough of it to the world. I would like to show more of it through my children by being a good parent to them and helping them make good choices for themselves, and to critically analyze, for the want of a better word, anything that they've been told, even by me, so they can, say, okay, they weigh it up and make their own choices for themselves. I think choice is huge. So, and I also think I've faced lots of challenges and trauma throughout my adult life from I was 21. And I also believe that I do have a purpose somewhere along the line to maybe share my story to help other people, to show them that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that you can be in the depths of despair and still manage to pick yourself up and do great things. I do believe that you can do that. And I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. I've actually got a quiver in my voice now. No idea how I'm going to do that yet, but I'm working on it. Opportunities, I'm facing opportunities and facing my fears as I go along with my daily and weekly and monthly life all of the time, to help me build my self-confidence so that eventually I'll be brave enough to tell my story and hopefully spur people on to share their stories and let them know that they have a voice and it's worth being heard.
So
So I'll
obviously,
take a wee drink after that.
yeah, no, of course, please do. I mean, it's obviously something that's affected you, affected your life and had an impact on what you've done. Really, is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. Life-changing things that you would never, never expect to happen in a million years. Excuse me, that would go on to impact every single decision that you would ever make, even with Ryan, my son, when he was born. I was so badly affected emotionally that I had all of these demons that I thought he was going to be taken away from me as a result of what had happened to me earlier in my life when I was in my mid-20s. And I kept thinking that, somehow I would be punished, and that, he was the most precious thing ever, and that he would be taken away from me and my husband. And that was a very difficult time. So it took years and years and years of, I suppose, by the time I had my third child, I actually thought, I can't do this anymore, because I was kind of experiencing out of body sort of experiences where I couldn't tell the difference between reality and fiction anymore, because I had sort of patched myself up and I had run out of patches. I just couldn't do it anymore. So that's when I started to change my life.
Fair play to you. I mean, there's a lot there, and sort of taking those decisions and going through those things.
Yeah, it's big.
Take us back to Mini Michelle. Who would we have met?
Minnie Michelle, when I was wee. When I was a wee girl, I was always happy-go-lucky. My life was great. I was one of 4 children. I have not had very devoted parents who I knew loved us all unconditionally, and still do to this day. I still know that 100%. I just thought life was great. I was always having the crack. I was a bit of a chancer. I was a bit of a tomboy. Primary school, my best friend was my next door neighbour and Paul, and we had such good fun. We had the best laughs, doing loads of, we lived in the country, jumping hedges, baling hay, you name it. You know, we had picking spuds, turnips, whatever. You know, we did it all. And life was great, innocent, carry on out in the snow and fertilizer bags sliding down the hills, you know, ending up in the rivers, you know, at the bottom. Life was great. Had a great childhood, I have to say. Brilliant. No, not a care in the world. Used to come home from a lunch, like in those days, we used to be able to walk home from primary school and have our dinner. You know, the Sullivans would have been on the TV for anybody that used to eat their dinner, watch the Sullivans, they walk back to school. Life was idyllic, you know, it was like something. I had a little house in the prairie. Now, in saying that, you know, I probably was, my parents were very protective over us, and I was probably very sheltered from a lot of, you know, the bad things in the world, which in a way, whenever, I suppose whenever I got married, I was 26 when I got married. And I suppose, you know, life came, reality came as a wee bit of a shock, you know, at that stage, because I had to start doing things for myself, and I couldn't ring, here, Mummy, what do you do? Actually, I did do that. You know, how do you turn the machine on? Did a lot of that. You know, so my husband was a better cook. He could clean, he could do all those things. You know, he had to teach me loads of things, you know, over at my, so you can imagine what that must have been like for him. But, you know, you don't belong picking up the trade, so to speak. So I suppose in a way, that's where maybe the choice thing comes in for me with my children, because rather than having choices, I feel, you know, I was maybe led, guided, you know, down a particular path that without choice, probably, but, you know, with the best will in the world. But I'm not sure if that is good for building resilience and, you know, actually helping you make decisions. I think it's a process that you need to learn when you're young, so that you know how to apply those choices and make responsible decisions in your adult life, which was something I had to work at when I was mid to late 20s, which is unusual. You know, so I would have had a very idyllic life, which wasn't, that's not how reality was then when you get married and you come home and you discover that the house is in the same mess that you left it that morning. That didn't happen when I lived at home. So, you know, it was a very nice environment to live in, or I lived. You know, so with the downside of not, you know, being able to make good choices for myself, struggling with that, being unsure, you know, should I do that? Will I do that? Is that the right thing? Is that the way it's done? There was a lot of that to be learned in my late 20s as a result, I think, of that.
That's amazing. So, I mean, you knew you wanted to be a hairdresser at 7. At
Yes.
16, you went through the process, and, you know, I take it that's up to O levels, is it? Would have been the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Got through the O levels, and then were you straight into apprenticeship, or sort of?
Believe it or not, I went to what is SRC now, was Newry Tech back
Mhm.
in that day. And I went there and I studied full time, and I used to train in a salon 1 day a week. And I did that as well as having a part-time job in a supermarket called Wellworths. So, yeah, so I was always a busy girl, you know, trying to get a few pound in your pocket and buy nice clothes, plenty of makeup, and, you know, all that kind of stuff at that particular time. Discos were not far away and all that sort of thing. So yeah, the choices for that. Yeah, it's funny that, because I knew exactly that I was going to be a hairdresser. And funny, my parents thought that I would have made a good secretary back in the day. It's funny, I'm an administrator now, which is a secretary essentially, you know. And they said, "No, you'd be great at that. You'd be great at that." And I said, "No, I'd hate that. Sitting in an office, couldn't think of anything worse. I want to be out there meeting people and chatting and blah blah." So I knew then that, that's what I was going to do, but I never considered those serious choices, as in, like, choices that were you were faced with when you were paying mortgages, and like your electric bill and your telephone bill. That was an entirely different type of choices. I thought I only paid my electric bill last week and it's in again. Couldn't be. So that was different. Yeah, completely different ball game altogether. There's a lot of growing up to be done there in my late 20s, which should have been done in my late teens, which didn't happen.
What's your earliest conscious memory?
What's my earliest conscious memory? I have lots. I can remember, I have good ones and bad ones, actually. My poor father used to cut our hair whenever we were kids. And the eldest in our house was my only brother. And then it was me. And we used to have the same haircut because it was convenient, I suppose. Right. He was strawberry blonde and I was kind of blondie. And we were very fortunate that our granny used to knit us matching jumpers, so they were fab. He would get a blue one and I'd get it like a moss green one, these flecky kind of things. So I remember this day, my father took us to town and we met somebody that he knew on the street, and I said, "John, I didn't know you had two sons." And I remember, I swore that day I would never, ever have my hair cut short. That had such a negative effect, because that particular day, actually, I was wearing the blue jumper and my brother was wearing the green, because they both looked like boys' jumpers anyway. So it was just kind of, here, stick that on, just whatever. You didn't really be fussy, so that was a terrible, terrible experience for me. Very traumatic. Somebody thought I was a boy. Actually, when I had my daughter, my eldest girl, her hair didn't grow till she was about 3. And I used to put hair bands and hats and all on her to make sure that nobody would mistake her for being a wee boy. I was traumatized. But I also have loads of happy ones. I can remember making my Holy Communion and thinking I was amazing. This was hair and all done. That's when the hairdressing thing started, beautiful hair that my own mother had done it all, and thinking I was a princess and thinking, yeah, this is the way to go. I could do this whole princessy thing. Yeah, I remember, when I was maybe 5 or 6, I have huge love for dogs. And when I was a wee girl, I used to sit outside, and I remember this so vividly. We had 3 steps, just, you could look out our kitchen window, 3 steps up into a wee garden. And I used to sit there with the dog, with my arm around the dog. The dog would have been bigger than me. And I can remember eating ice cream and giving the dog ice cream and licking the eye. And I can remember Mama used to re-knock and said, "Don't be giving the dog your ice cream." Used to do it all the time. I used to love picking worms, Pete, out of the ground, taking them apart. I just did I have lots of memories of my childhood, lots of early memories from way on. I remember cutting myself with a Stanley knife, you name it. I've done lots of things. Whilst I was shaving a stick from a tree, things like that. So the list is endless.
Is it any wonder you went to hairdressing if your father had managed to give you both the same haircut?
I don't think it was intentional at the time. I think it just, this side was a wee bit shorter than this, and then you had to shorten that up. And, before you knew it, we both had the same haircuts with the, crooked fringes, because he used to lean his hand on your, to cut your fringe. And I had cows like so one side of the way up. So yeah, we were looking good. It was okay for my brother. Nobody noticed anything, peculiar about him. It was just me and how I felt about it at the time.
You take after your mommy or dad?
That's a funny one, because I suppose my mom's personality. She loves the crack and she loves meeting people. She is very, very sociable. And my dad he's very honest. He is a man of impeccable integrity and full of principles, and he is so reliable. And I have to say, from I've got older, I think I'm a mixture of them both. I think I do all of the sociable things like a mum, but like she'd be a chancer. She'd be the one that would say, park in the double yellow line. She'd be dead on, right? He wouldn't entertain the double yellow lines, you know. So she'd be saying, for God's sake, just park up there, you know. So she'd be one of those, you know. We would call her Sally last year. Last for organized, sitting in the car waiting on her, you know, and she drives the man astray, right? And he just sits there, patient, waits on her. And once she's happy, he doesn't care. So I think I'm probably a combination of them both, if I'm totally honest. And I actually sometimes I see things that I hear myself say. I say, I didn't think I'd ever say that, you know, from both of them. You know, we used to take the mick out of my poor dad, like, because would say, lighten up, you know, do you have to be so serious all the time? You know, it's only a joke. And he doesn't, he would never, if there was gossip in the house, because as you can imagine, my mom and my two sisters would say, here, would he hear what happened today? And he would take himself off, you know, he would never listen to any type of gossip or anything like that. So we say, it's only a bit of crack. What's said in the house stays in the house. And he wouldn't entertain any of it, and still doesn't to this day. So I suppose I've picked up a lot of his values, and he would have been the one that always said to me, you know, Michelle, once you know that you can go to bed at night and your conscience is clear, you'll always have a good night's sleep. Once you just do that, you never have to worry about anything. And I say that all the time. I don't tell lies, and I don't do anything that is deceitful, and I don't do anything that would intentionally harm or hurt anybody else, because I would feel terrible about that. I wouldn't like that. So I can sleep very well every night. That's not to say I don't fall out with Barry and that sort of stuff. That's a different thing. and I tell you about that. You know, so a combination of them both.
Are your parents proud of you?
Yes, they are. They're very proud of me. Yeah, they tell me that, like, when I was going to university, they weren't happy with it to begin with, because they thought it was the very old school, and your family's your family and they come first and you look after them and you put yourself last, because you've had your chance. Now you've taken these children into the world, so you look after them. So at the beginning, they thought I was selfish, and they used the term modern woman, and, you know, running away off, you know. So there was a bit of that, and they tried to discourage me as well. So I was reminded of my to begin to, I just so pleased, she's cheesing away at the camera. She was so pleased, and I said to her, you're going to end up leaving me with the bruise in my arm. She said, Michelle, I am so happy today. I am just elated. I'm so happy for you and for me. You know, so she was great. And she would say to everybody, this is my daughter, Michelle. She's just graduated, you know. You know, God help her, she thought it was amazing. So yeah, they were afraid that I would, but as everybody did.
So, I mean, just having your parents there and going through that. So, really, you were going through your hairdressing. Was that locally then? So you were able to get into the business and really just start working your way up?
Yeah, once I finished my 2 years training, I was offered a job with the people that, with the salon that I actually was doing my 1 day a week So I suppose I stayed in that salon for until I was about 21. And I decided then it actually, I didn't just decide, it was that particular year I had had a car accident, and myself and my best friend were out on a Friday night, and we, at that stage, we hung around in a group of fellas and girls, and everybody was having the crack, and it was Friday night, we had to work Saturday. So we had no lift home. And of course, one of the guys in our company offered to give us a lift home. And I mean, you have to remember that he was in our company as well. So it meant that everybody was in the same boat. So we accepted the lift. And as it turns out, then my friend, she said, "Do you know, I'm actually going to stay on because I'm going to get a lift with somebody else." So I was staying in her house, so I got a lift home, and we had an accident on the way home. I was very seriously injured, and afterwards, it caused havoc, absolute havoc throughout my life, my best friend's life, our relationship together, the person that owned the car, you name it. It just was horrific. So I actually left my job to start a new job across the border in Dundalk, where I thought I could start afresh and with a clean slate to try and sort of put that all behind me. So I did. I went. Now, I have to say, losing my best friend was very, very traumatic for me, because we were so close. It was something that it was like a death for me, I have to say, because I thought she was my soulmate as well, but things just got just too difficult for us. So we tried to sort of, for want of a better word, part terms on as amicable a way as we could. But I was I was devastated with that, and it took me years to recover from that, I have to say, as well as the injuries that I had sustained in the car accident. But I stayed in that job, and that it was in that job throughout the few years that I worked there that I actually met my now husband. So things started to look very, very bright. So everything started to be a bit more optimistic. And then when we were getting married, I decided that, I don't know if you remember the whole punt pound thing, Pete, but I was getting paid in punt at that stage, and the exchange rate was desperate. So I felt, okay, myself and Barry got married within 2 years of knowing each other. So it was quite a whirlwind. So we needed as much money as we possibly could in that short space of time to get married. So I moved back then to Newry, to the local town, and got a job in a salon there. And we got married. And at this stage, everything was going great. But then I decided that after I got married, that I wanted to be self-employed. So it was after that I started to work as a self-employed hairdresser, and did so until March of this year. So that was I actually had a great wee time, working in the different salons in all the different places, because you met such a variety of characters, and I got to know so much about different types of people, and you really felt as if you were part of people's lives, So I suppose that when I say that now, that actually hasn't changed. I still like that element of, without the hairdressing, of people. I love, feeling, close to people, that, they're telling you their stories, and, they're being authentic, and, you know, the communication and I suppose the emotional attachment that you get from people. I like the warmth of warm, honest people.
Sounds like, I mean, there's a real service element to what you do, in terms of, connecting with them, but also serving and helping others. Is that a fair?
Yeah, that's true. I do like that. I was always like that. I always got a buzz out of helping other people. If I could do it, I would do it. And even if I thought I couldn't do it, and I could see that somebody needed something, I would dig deep and do my very best to help people in whatever way that I could. And I have to say that has always been very successful for me, because I've had lots of great connections with lots of people who, you know, who become close, to you. So I enjoy that element. People are great, I think as human beings, there are just so many people out there who actually don't even know they're as great an individual as what they are. They don't know their potential. They don't know the impact or the influence that they have on other people. And I think that everybody needs to know that. I think that we all need to know that, we have a massive influence on other people positively. We tend to focus on the things that we can't do or that we're not so good at, rather than focus on the things that we are good at and that, work well for us. And I don't know why that is. We always tend to look on the next, no, I wouldn't do that because I can't, or because I'm afraid, or that wouldn't be for me, or whatever. We jump straight to that. That's our default setting, instead of saying, well, I'll give that a go. So I'm now giving it a go. So I'm trying to encourage other people to do the same if I can, and at the same time encouraging my children all the time. My two girls keep saying to them, I just want you to remember that the impossible is so possible, and dream big, dig deep and dream big, because whatever you want to do in your life, you can do it, and don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't. And I'm very passionate about getting that message across to them. I'm very passionate about them understanding the importance of equality, both gender equality and equality in general. I want them to understand the importance of respect and self-respect, how important they are, important they are, no matter how important they think that other people actually are. Don't want them to put other people before themselves, because I don't actually think that it's just not ideal. I think we can grow up in a society and we're taught to be kind and respectful to other people, but we're not taught to be kind and respectful to ourselves. And we're not taught to love ourselves either. And I think that that's hugely important for people to reach their full potential and understand who they are as a human being. So if I can help even just my own two girls to achieve that, I would be very happy about that, because I think that's massive. And the funny thing is, I actually talked about that with my girls a few weeks ago. And this came around, just I was talking about myself, how I'm trying to encourage myself and, openly love myself more, so that they can see it, and self-care and self-worth and the importance of it. And I asked them both, had I taught them how to love themselves and the importance of self-care, and they said no. And I was devastated. And I said, in what way? I said, oh, it doesn't mean that, you were bad or anything. Like, we know what the story is, but the way you say, you know, if you can still walk and you're sick, you're okay, run on, which I do. I do that. So I would never say, oh, feeling under the weather, a couple of wee hours in bed, even just wee small things like that, look after yourself, do this, take a wee bit of time out. So we're now practicing that. The three of us actually are practicing that on a regular basis. Say, okay, recognizing what it is that needs attention and trying to give it some attention. And I have said, we'll do it as a group. You can help me and I'll help you, so that we're all more aware of it. So we do that. It started off kind of funny, but we try and put it into practice every day, most days, and we talk openly about the things. So that's a massive leap forward, even just personally as well.
It's beautiful to look them in, and as you say, to even have a bit of accountability between you almost.
Yes, absolutely. I have to say, my 16-year-old daughter would be my champion, because I tell her all of the things that I'm doing, and she, for whatever reason, gets it. She doesn't make fun of it, what you'd expect a 16-year-old to do. She continually says, I think you're brilliant. I'm so proud of you, Mommy. I think what you are doing is amazing. You are the best person I have ever met in my life. I'm so proud of you. And when she says that to me, I just say, you're the best person I ever met. We laugh, but even to hear that and just say you're such an inspiration, Mommy. And when your children say things like that to you, like that gets you right in the heart. You must have actually done something that's half right. You must have had some sort of a positive influence on them. So that has, I think working on myself has actually made a massive difference to everybody. It's true what they say, when you're more aware of who you are, other people get the best of you. You're not just the best for yourself, but you are the best person for other people, especially those that you're in contact with the most, like your immediate family. And it definitely is the case for me.
I mean, looking back now, even suppose, going back, before you even started in this whole journey, I mean, what, knowing what you know now, what would your perception have been?
Well, it's hard to say exactly because I am so different than what I was then. I actually suppose whenever in my younger days, I probably did do that whole, you're always very, very aware of what it is that the people around you are actually saying, what they perceive you to be, and how they're actually going to judge you. And now I try to do that less and less every single day, because that doesn't matter to me. What other people think of me now is none of my business, and it really isn't any of my business. And I try to practice that, because that has a negative impact. We carry around this big rucksack of limiting beliefs that were imposed upon us throughout our entire lives. We've never actually sat down and said, why do I think like that? Why do I believe that? Who told me that? Is that true? So even right through to until I was 40, I was never comfortable enough in my own skin to say, I'm not doing that. No, I don't want to do that. I don't like that. I'm not going there. No, I disagree. I found all of those things very difficult to do. And I certainly don't want to cause conflict or have any type of confrontation with anybody. But I think it's imperative that we all are able to say, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. I don't want to do. I don't want to say. I don't want to eat. Whatever. Just because. And no should be okay. No is a whole sentence in itself. You shouldn't have to explain yourself. That's it. So that's something I suppose I was never taught to do when I was younger. Again, because you're taught to, be kind. They're nice, do this. They didn't mean that, whatever. But sometimes people did mean it. And, you wanted to express maybe your feelings at the time, which were maybe negative. But, well, we'll not focus on that too much. I think it's good to teach your children to focus on their feelings and their emotions and let them talk about it, and try and reach a reasonable and rational either explanation or description or whatever it is, so that they can. What I find about my children is if you give them an explanation, or you speak to them on a level that they think is even, they tend to believe you more, and they tend to say, okay, it's open for discussion then. So they feel there's a mutual respect there. So I think if I was looking at myself, if I could speak to myself back then and say, Michelle, it's okay to have your own opinions. It's okay to voice them. You don't always have to people please, and have a wee bit more confidence in your uniqueness, because unique, I always found myself to be slightly different than other people. And I still am very aware of that to today, but I always thought that that was a negative thing. And I don't anymore. I actually think to be unique I think it's a massive strength, because there's only one me and there's only one you, there's only one everybody. If there was two of me, God help the word, but like, sure, it wouldn't be as interesting if we were all exactly the same. So I think it's important to get that message out to the younger generations as well. You don't have to be a sheep. You can be a shepherd. Different is really good. Work with your difference, go with your uniqueness, because that's what makes you so special. And I honestly do believe that. I think that we're not taught that either. We're not taught to focus on the difference as a positive. I think we don't be doing that, because Pete will see you and that won't be good. The curtain twitchers next door, don't be going over there, and don't be late, and don't be this, and don't be the other. I don't actually think that that's the case. I would definitely tell my younger self to have a wee bit more faith in herself, because she was much better than what she thought she was. And she was always the person she is today, but she just didn't realize her full potential, I suppose. She didn't understand. The understanding is the problem, I suppose. That was key. She didn't understand really who she was then. So I would tell her now to give herself a break, sit back and, take a look at herself and see that she is worthy of everything that, she wants to do or achieve.
I mean, looking at her at 16 and yourself at 16,
Mm-hmm.
how does that compare?
It's like looking in a mirror. And that's no joke, except that she is a very high achiever at school, loves school for academic reasons, not just for the crack, but loves the crack, has a great sense of humor. We have a very strong emotional connection, because we can finish each other's sentences. I don't know how that is, but she intuitively is very in tune with me, and I would be with her too. I actually can feel, I can feel her happiness, her sadness, her anguish. I can feel it by looking at her face. I know, and she can with me as well. So there is something there with her that obviously I see as a reflection of me, and she expresses herself more openly because I've encouraged her to. I have never silenced her because she wanted to say no, or even just not liking dresses, which is we don't wear dresses if you don't like dresses. I encourage them all to speak their mind, and look, we'll talk about everything and see where we go from there. And I have to say, there's good trust there, and she relies on me. I know she relies on me, and she trusts me wholeheartedly, because she tells me that regularly. Now, I'd like just to run this past you and, see what your opinion is on that. And our relationship's very open. Grace is still only 11, so we haven't reached, that kind of discussion about anything. We're still only doing, we're just over Santa. So that's on an entirely different level altogether. But I do intend to do exactly the same with her every day. Encourage her along the way just to be herself, and to be herself is okay. And, parenting is a different ballgame altogether, Pete, because it's something that you can't drive without doing driving lessons. But you have children. I have 3 children, and let's face it, you wing it. How do you know if you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong? And how I've overcome that with all the things that I find that I've done wrong is that I say, look, I actually made a mistake. I'm really sorry about that. I should have done this, but actually this is my first time having children, so I have nothing to compare it to. And they are gracious, and they let me have that, and they say that's okay, provided that I own up to it and admit it, whatever the mistake or whatever I may say that, may have been I misplaced or whatever, ill feeling or whatever, I own up. And I think it's good to be accountable and show your children that, there's no such thing as perfection. We're all trying our best to do the best we can with the resources that we have. And I think we can't expect any more than that of each other.
No, it's so true. I mean, it's, even looking out and supporting each other, and this, it's great for you to, to be able to do that for your children. That's so powerful. And the ripple will continue. It means a lot.
Well, you hope. Yeah, it does mean a lot. You just like to think that they always know that they can count on you. And I do believe that they do know that they can count on me 100%, that I'm not in it lightly. And that's very important for me and for them, for security on all of our on all parts for each of us.
That makes sense. Take me forward then in terms of what happened. So you went through, all that time, sort of being self-employed, 16 years, I think you were saying there. So you're self-employed. What happened then? Why change?
It just wasn't fulfilled anymore. I felt I was, I suppose, in a way, I felt like I had conformed to all societal norms and values, and I wanted to branch out. You spoke about it in something before, Pete, about, you used the tree analogy, right? And I actually felt the branches, there was only a few branches round the bottom, that there was way more branches to actually start blossoming. So I actually I had to face myself and make the decision to change, which wasn't easy, because we all know it's easier to stay in what it is that you know, because it's your comfort zone. So that's safe, bad and all as it is, and it makes you unhappy. And it like for me, it got to the point where my hairdressing role had actually, it was making me mentally and physically unwell. I was just burnt out, and that was having a terrible effect on my family, because you build up the resentment and you get this victim mindset, and you want to, oh, poor me, and it's everybody else's fault that I'm like this. And you're only playing a game and you're kidding yourself. So for me, it took a while. I find it difficult because I wasn't courageous enough to actually say, look, Michelle, sort yourself out. Nobody can do this, only you. You're just going to have to do this. So I thought, right, well, I'm going to start making a step. I had no idea what my plan was, but I thought, if I don't make a step somewhere in the right direction, I am going to be stuck here miserable for the rest of my life. And did I want to exist? No, I didn't. I didn't know what was going on in the world around me other than what I knew in my environment. You think as a hairdresser that you're meeting all these different types of people, and that actually helps you grow. That's not limitless. There is a limit to that. And then you do become stagnant, because you think, it's repetitive, and it is repetitive. So for me, I felt that I had changed as a human being, and I just wanted to explore what my potential was, because I had no idea. I didn't know anything other than what I knew at that particular time. And now that I've done so many different things, I still haven't reached my full potential. I don't know what my full potential is yet. And I probably won't ever know, because I'm always going to strive to move forward and learn new things all the time, because why wouldn't I? How lucky am I that I actually have the opportunity, and I'm physically and mentally healthy, that I can actually embrace anything that comes away. I have a choice. I can actually say, I'm going to do this. No, that's not for me. Even if I think maybe it's not for me, I actually say to myself, so why wouldn't you do that? Why would you not do that? Try it. You think you don't like it. How do you know? So I do that. I actually find myself doing that a lot. I'll say, okay, I do it. And I very, very seldom come out the other end saying, I wish I hadn't done that. Every single time I do something that is unusual or out of my comfort zone, I 99.9% of the time come away and I say, wow, even if it wasn't what you expected, be it good or bad, I always take something away from it. I always learn from it, and I can always apply it somewhere in my life to something. Always, always, always. And I always pick up some wee trinket. Somebody says something or does something that I say, yeah, I get that. I know what that is. So even that is helping me learn and grow all the time. And I love that. I think it's amazing. I think we as human beings, we are incredible. I think it's just like, to imagine not actually knowing your potential and saying, I haven't reached my potential yet. How great a position is that to be in, to say, no, I have so much to do, because I know so many people who are my age and they actually say, they think I'm a bit bonkers, I'm a bit out there, and they use the term, are you not just happy with your life as it is? So with, growth, they consider that to be negative. So straight away back to that default thing, she's not happy in what she's doing. Obviously, she's miserable at home. You'd think at this stage in her life she'd be happy. Got that a lot, and still get that a lot. But I feel great. I just say to myself, isn't it fantastic? Look at the things that they're missing out. And I actually look at the things that I'm able to do, look at the things you're seeing and you're learning. And my husband actually said to me a few weeks ago, Michelle, do you know what? I've no, because we don't discuss what it is that I'm doing with my personal development or anything. He knows what's going on, but I don't sit down and say, so today, this is what, I'm setting myself with these goals, or this is what I'm grateful for. We don't go through any of that, because he's doing his thing. He's unique in his own right, and that's fine. But he knows on an umbrella term, he knows what it is I'm doing. But he actually said to me a few weeks ago, it's like, we've been married 21 years, Pete, and he said to me, Michelle, it's actually like being married to somebody else now. He said, for a long time, I didn't realize what was actually missing. But he said, you weren't really present, in this house, even though you were present. He said, but you're fully present now. And he said, like the comfort zone, you get used to it, but that whole sparkle had actually just sort of disintegrated, and it's back with a vengeance.
I was going to say, God forbid, he wasn't asking for the old Michelle back, was he?
I never asked him that. Let's hope not. Yeah, it's like, me focusing on the positive. Getting carried away with himself.
As you've really changed. You're so positive and all that. It's like, yeah, can I have the other one? No.
Very good.
I just no, it's great. I mean, it's so powerful, to do that. So, talk to me. Say going for psychology at in Queens. I mean, how was that? Is psychology something that just interests you, and how did you find it going through the course?
Pete, everything I do has a story. For starters, addiction on both my parents' side was massive, right? So we were brought up with the fear of, in my family's case, on both sides, my mother and father, it was alcohol addiction. So both my parents were pioneers, but we grew up with, all sorts of, horror stories about alcohol and stay away from it and blah, blah, blah. So I was very interested in the genetic components with that, and why some people actually are, predisposed to it. Say me and my family was predisposed to exactly the same thing as you were in my family, but yet I would be the one that would, take it very differently, and I would be the one that would end up with the alcohol addiction. So that was one of the reasons that I was interested. I wanted to learn about that, because my parents weren't very open about, they didn't understand addiction themselves, even though they lived with it. It was a different generation, and they had a completely different outlook on it altogether, mostly based around fear. And their biggest goal was to keep us safe, so that we didn't end up leading a life of destruction, is what they thought would happen to us. So I was interested in that. And I also was interested in the relationship or the correlation with addiction and anxiety disorders in the family as well. That was massive for me. So that I witnessed a lot of things to do with addiction also within my hairdressing salon. So I was interested in personality traits, child development, everything that goes along with that. And when I actually sat down and assessed it all relates back to psychology. So even trauma, how we deal with trauma, you know, and that was based on my own trauma whenever I was 25, you know, so unexpected trauma that involved the death of somebody else's child. So all of that had a massive impact. I was looking for answers to all of the questions that were rattling around inside my head so that I could make sense of myself and the world around me as well. It wasn't something that I did lightly. I had a huge passion for human behavior on a positive side, but also on a negative side, you know, and the biological and environmental influences that actually contribute to how we actually behave were massive for me. So I probably did very well in my degree because I was so interested in it as well. And I could apply lots of it to my own life, which again probably helped me do so well in my degree because it was relatable. It helped me make sense of it, you know. So everything that I did was for a reason. And probably that really only came to light after I had it completed. It's as if I nearly was hiding those kind of truths from myself, that I don't know whether you deny it or you're in denial or what, but you just, or you don't face them. I'm not 100% sure. You secretly know these things and you want to know about them, but you're telling yourself you don't. It's hard to explain, you know, but I had to get to the truth for myself so that I could move forward and make sense of my own world as well, so that I could be a better human being for everybody else around me too. It all ties in.
It's amazing, isn't it? You know, that, as you say, the curiosity and the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You know, was that sort of curiosity based for you or fear based? I mean, was it a fear that?
It wasn't curiosity or fear. It was, I was determined I was going to get answers. It was a determination and a motivation and a drive. It was something that I just wanted answers for it. I wasn't sure why at the time, or I was pretending I wasn't sure, but I wanted answers and I wanted to know what was going on in the world so that I could actually understand other people better, and that I could understand, I'm very compassionate and I like to understand why I'm compassionate as well. And I like to understand how to be more compassionate in particular situations rather than answer to problem solve. To just listen sometimes can be compassionate enough. So there was lots of things that I learned that I was looking to learn and wasn't aware that I was actually looking for those things to learn as well. It's a very complex topic actually, because there were so many different elements of it that I actually wanted to know about. And I put myself out there to meet all the different types of people within the university circle so that I could learn as much as I possibly could and absorb it like a sponge. And I did. And I have to say, it was one of the best things I ever did. I loved my degree and it made so much sense, you know, to me. Everything that I learned, and that there was a lot of things that I found very difficult, but a lot of things, the majority of things I found super, super beneficial to me, without a shadow of a doubt. I think everybody, you know, needs to know a certain amount of, you know, human psychology. It's fascinating. I think we're denying ourselves the privilege of it because, you know, it would give us all a better understanding of who we are and who other people are and why other people perhaps behave the way that they do, you know, and to look a wee bit deeper. Just don't judge a book by its cover. There's a lot under the cover.
Did you get your answers?
I did, yeah. I understand more about myself. I understand more about it enabled me to ask more questions, you know, from my parents, which I thought I wouldn't have been courageous enough to ask because I was afraid it might be hurtful for them, or, you know, stir up old, you know, feelings of sadness or anything like that. But actually it turned out to be very informative for both my parents as well. They see things in an entirely different light, and it has been beneficial for everybody all around. It actually has, it opened a can of worms for us in many ways, you know, so that it gives everybody, including my parents, who are both in their mid to late 70s, a better understanding of, you know, in their case, addiction, and, you know, all the different characteristics that are, and traits that are involved with all of that, you know, and why some people, you know, have better coping mechanisms and are more resilient than others. You know, so it was very good, I have to say.
What's on the bucket list? What's coming up for you then?
What's coming up for me? Well, do you know what, Pete? I'd love to write a book. And
When?
I've tried doing this when thing, and I'm scared. And I know I shouldn't be scared. I'm still working on that. When?
Talk to me about the book. What would it be?
Well,
what will it be?
what will it be? It will be about happiness, and, you know, and having a meaningful life, and what it means to have a meaningful life for me, in the hope that, you know, through all the challenges and, you know, experiences that I have had, and that you can still, I feel the challenges and the traumas that I actually faced have made me the person I am today as well. They've contributed to that. And I know when I look back on my life, even now at only 47, see what I said, only 47, I can look back at that and I know my life is meaningful because I felt it. And now that I can look back at it more analytically, I know how powerful the, you know, the good and the bad situations were, and the steps that I had to take to actually get out of the depths of despair and, you know, face your fears and keep moving forward. And it is absolutely 100% possible. And what you learn from those experiences gives you an entirely different perception of the world. And the world is a big place, but a very small place at the same time. And there are so many people in the world, and yet so many of us are so similar. Even though we're unique, we're so similar. But lots of people just don't believe when they get themselves in a situation that they think there's no way out, and, you know, that this is maybe it for them. They have to just, you know, they've made their bed, so to speak, lie on it tonight. So I don't believe that. I want everybody to not just exist. I'd love to encourage everybody to feel that they've lived their life, know that they've had some sort of a purpose. When you feel like you are living your life, it's different than just living your life. Every day I say, you know, I do feel my life in my heart. And for a long time, I didn't actually feel that because I was just existing. And I know that they were the result of me not actually seeking help as a result of, you know, the things that I'd gone through. But that I was down to poor choices, lack of, you know, being upfront on my part, because I was trying to, a lot of pretentious behavior going on, that I was fine, that sort of thing. And I don't think we should have that stiff upper lip attitude. I think it's okay to say that we're falling apart at the seams when we are. And I think that other people are there to help us along. We think they're not, but I think that other people are there to support us. You know, they may not know how, but, you know, once you actually say you need a wee bit of support, generally people are there to help you in whatever way that you think is good for you to actually improve. So it's very important to know who you are, to know that, to know how strong you are as a human being, to know that no matter what life throws at you, yes, it can temporarily put you out of action, and it can make you doubt yourself. It can have all sorts of negative impacts in many different ways, but we need to remain focused on who we are, and remember, try and focus on the positive strengths that we have, so that we can move forward positively. And we don't want to change the past and forget about, any of the challenges that we had. We need to look back on them as a learning experience. And once you acceptance is the key. Once you accept what it was that actually happened to you and how you felt at that particular time, and allow yourself to say that it's okay now, there's healing in that. So that actually helps you to move forward in the right direction. I actually feel that the next 10 years for me are going to be even brighter than the last 10 years, because I've taken those steps, made the right choices for change.
It's fantastic, the journey that you're on, and it's discovering what you're capable of, I suppose, is that's the lovely place to be. That you know,
Yeah.
not thinking that you could get the degree, and then you've got mummy so proud of you and telling everyone in the university campus that that's your daughter. It's great. I mean, what a turn for the books, really. It's fantastic, really, isn't it? Really, when you
Yeah.
look back,
Yeah.
Do
It
you-
is. It's great, but I intend to do more of that.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what yet, but I intend to do more. Even with the job that I'm in now, it's an entirely different organization altogether than what I've ever been used to before. I've always been in a supportive environment, and this is more factual, and yet I still have that supportive part of me that's still there, but I am less emotionally drained, let's say. I do have more emotional freedom, and it allows me to be supportive in a different type of, I suppose, more open manner. I'm not sure, less closed environment. It's speaking to different people, communicating with people from different backgrounds. That's new for me too, who are curious about the things that I'm actually doing, and they're learning from me as much as I'm learning from them. So that's a good thing for me too.
I mean, do you, when you're sort of looking at the future and what's going on now, I mean, do you look at it with sort of positive opportunity? Do you see, yourself, can you see your future self from what you're capable of, or is it a case of being guided?
I look at everything positively. I try not to look. I'm not always positive. I have my bad days, and everybody has their bad days. But generally, yeah, I say, I try and focus all of the time and try and turn everything around, even if it's negative. I try and say, right, I'll flip this on its head now, and I say, okay, so for those bad things that have happened today, or things that I found challenging, what was good and what worked well, and how do you move forward with that? And I try and use that approach all the time. For me at the moment, I'm trying to be the best that I can at the job that I have, because again, I want to give it my 100%. It's another thing that I'm not taking on half-heartedly. I've committed to this for 10 months, and I am absolutely 100% committed to it. And by the time I'm finished, I will have been the best administrator that place has ever had. And I know that I will, because I'm eager to learn. And it's something that I have a passion for, learning new things. It doesn't matter what they are, and meeting the new people along the way whilst doing it. And as for down the future long term, at the minute, facing my fears and embracing every single opportunity is helping me grow to find out exactly who I want to be because I'm not 100% sure. So until I'm 100% sure on what it is that is my 100% passion, I I won't stop until I actually get to that stage. And then I can say, right, I've nailed it now. This is where I'm going to set down my 5-year goals, etc., etc. I'm not at that point yet. I'm still learning a lot about myself, and I'm enjoying the learning process as I go. I feel fulfilled, as every day I feel fulfilled, because I I feel positive about it, and it's something that makes me feel happy. Doesn't matter how small it is to me. It doesn't matter how insignificant it seems to other people. If I think that I have achieved something that I didn't know yesterday, I'm very happy about that. It doesn't, yeah, and I mean that. I to say, well, I didn't know that yesterday. So today is a good day, So yeah, I try to focus on the positive for the future, no matter what it is. And I know my future's bright. And I know we're in very challenging times at the minute, but I will be putting my best foot forward every single day to make sure that my future remains positive.
What makes you sad or disappointed?
Oh, sad or disappointed. Well, I am a very emotional person. So what makes me sad? Lots of things make me sad. You know, um, well, it can be anything from dog actually being unwell. That would make me sad. Um, Big things that are sad are, if what would make me really sad is if I thought that my children ever thought that I was disappointed. I would be so sad about that. I would be disappointed in myself that they were like that. But I get sad at sad things in the TV. I cry at movies, and I wear my heart on my sleeve all the time. So I cry when I'm happy as well. I People being mean to me intentionally makes me sad as well. People who try to sabotage for no particular reason makes me sad, because I think that is such a waste, and I would never intentionally do that to somebody else. So that makes me sad as well. Lots of different things in different contexts make me sad. Loads and loads, actually. It just depends on a given day.
Is that something that happens? So many people trying to sabotage what you do?
Yes, that has happened. That has been a frequent thing that has happened actually throughout my life. People intentionally try to sabotage, even just things, even just your thoughts. Try to minimize the impact, or try to degrade the importance of whatever it is that you think or feel at the time. Yeah, that has been an ongoing issue, probably always. What makes me sad as well is that I'm not a big fan of people who view materialistic obsessions as, like if they see you driving a nice car, or think you have a nice house, they think you're a better person. And if they think you're educated, that you can have better conversations. I wouldn't be a big fan of that at all, because I believe we're all equals, no matter what it is we do, no matter what car we drive, no matter what house we live in. I just, that makes me very, very sad. And throughout the years, that has actually, like for instance, in my salon, I actually had somebody say, it's so nice speaking to you now on a different level, Michelle, because you're educated. That made me so sad, because I was never any different than what I was. I didn't change my language in the salon. I was still the same person cracking jokes, as I always was. But in their mind, they thought they could have different conversations with me because I had a formal education. That makes me very sad. Very, very sad. I think that's fickle, unimportant. That's not what made me who I am as a person. So there's lots of different things that make me sad.
Well, I mean, it's always quite amazing when you sort of take the time to just to look back, and
Mm.
not necessarily, there's only so much we can change, and some of it's just reflection, but even just sort of certain areas that, yeah, it'll always bring a sort of negative slash harsh emotion,
Hmm. Hmm.
and whether or not that's on the agenda or not's another thing, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's just reflection.
It's just reflection, yeah, and it's it's how you deal with that as well. I always think it's, you know, if you feel, if anything like that ever does make me sad, I tend to say, look, it's not a reflection of me or who I am. It's more a reflection of who they are. And I wish that we had more people in the world that were less focused on the materialistic things that people have and are, you know, have and do, even by their profession. I even I've had people make comments about this profession that I've been negative comments. You would close your own business to do this. You know, what does that mean? And who gives people, the right to make judgment calls on things about anybody else's life? We're all here to do whatever it is that we feel is good for us as individuals. And nobody has the right to make little of them or, make lighthearted jokes or snide remarks or anything like that. I think that's sad. That's sad on a different type of level as well, because it makes it they try to impact your thoughts negatively by belittling the things that you're doing, and I don't go for that. I think everybody is on an equal par no matter who they are or what they have, and for me it's about the person as an individual. It's about the size of their heart at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and what even changing, but like your husband saying, it's like you're completely different, and
Hmm.
some people can also, embellish that and be delighted, and some people just,
Yeah.
can't see the change, and it's treated very differently.
Yeah,
you
that's
know
true. And I've had comments like that as well. What was wrong with the old Michelle? Why did you want her to be all modified? You know, modified. So this is the modified version, obviously. So what was wrong with the old one? Absolutely nothing wrong with the old me. The old me is still there. It's just that there's something else that old me wanted to explore. That old me will always be, that'll always be the core, the crux. You have to go through the different stages in your life to know exactly who you are. But if you don't embrace all the different opportunities come your way, you'll never know. So I don't think it's a matter of having two different people or two different sides to the one coin. I think it's just that there are different variations of us, that we show to different people depending on the situation and the circumstance at the time. And each of them is as important as the other, be them old or new. It doesn't matter, because sometimes we didn't know the new was there until we looked for it. It was always there. It just never surfaced itself because we were unaware. We didn't call upon it. So it wasn't used. Snooze, you lose.
I love it. What do you love to do? What's a guilty pleasure for you?
At the moment, my guilty pleasure is just reading books, and I like reading memoirs. I love, again, about people's stories. Gives me that connection with them. I like that. I love drinking red wine. I like watching movies. And other than that, I like to spend time. I've started a new thing, with my girls now. We do quality girl time, where we exclude the boys. So that's great. I love that. That's brilliant. That's a new thing, which, started at the beginning of lockdown in March, and we have our girls' time most evenings. So I try to slot that in. Even tonight, it was only study time. They're both, wee Grace is only a first year, so this is her first exams. And, Mommy, I don't know how to study and I want to study. So we were doing that. The other one's, preparing for GCSE. She wants to be top of the class. So, ask me questions, ask me questions. So that was our time tonight, simply because they chose. That's how our time was going to be. But I like to spend quality time with my children. I'm very aware that they're all going to flee the nest very quickly. And I'd like to think that I have done the best job that I possibly could. And I work on that every single day to make sure that I can sleep easy at night, knowing that I did give it my very best, mistakes and all, warts and all, that I gave it my best. So they know I like to drink wine. They know I like to read books. They know I'm passionate about my personal development. And we chat in the mornings on our way to school and work about what we're grateful for and why we're grateful for it, and be it only chicken wings and soup for the school dinner. So, all's good. That's about as guilty as my pleasure get at the minute.
Well, it's good. I mean, there's a lot of, what comes across as you say that is, is contentment and curiosity. It's
Yeah.
listen, a book, glass of wine, special time with the people around you that you love and connect with. I mean, that's
Yeah.
life. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's life, and life is good. Life is good. It definitely is. It's as good as you make it. It takes a lot of work, and that was something that you learn as well. Nothing comes easy. Everything takes a lot of work and a lot of compromise, and that can be a very difficult thing to actually reason with as well when you want your own way. So it has its challenges, but we do the best that we can with the resources we have. So we're not doing too bad, thankfully.
That makes sense. If you were then to summarize your fire in the belly in one or two words, what would it be?
My fire in the belly at the moment is learning more about people who are passionate and driven, who are like me. I'm passionate and driven, and I want to meet more like-minded people like that, so that it not only helps me to grow, but it encourages them and motivates me to actually keep moving. And it's actually accountability for me. So I know that it's there for the taking. I just don't know how I'm going to take it yet, but that's my fire in the belly. I am going to take it one way or another at some point in the future.
I love it. I mean, fair play to you. I mean, you're turning up, you're sort of putting yourself out there, you're trying and moving forward. That in itself is huge. It's massive,
Look, I look at some people and they are so driven, Pete, and I think, I'm guilty of the whole thing. They have it all wrapped up. They know where they're going in life and they are doing amazing, and it's fantastic. I just am not at that point yet. I was a slow starter, so I'm taking the time. The journey that I'm on at the minute, the sights are great, so I'm not motivated on what I see other people doing faster than me, better than me, quicker than me, anything like that. I'm enjoying this journey. I am on the coastal route, and every step forward is a step in the right direction for me, no matter what it may be. So it's onwards and upwards for me. And eventually, I know that what's for me won't pass me. I know that eventually I'll get that aha moment and I'll say, this is it. I've reached it. I do realize that. I'm being patient and enjoying it as I go along.
But it's fantastic. What's a message you'd like to leave with people listening to this, and even think something you've learned?
Well, if I could give anybody a message, I would stress the importance of not existing. Your life is not, it's not a dress rehearsal. You only get one go at it. And if you have the luxury of trying to make yourself more self-aware, grab that opportunity and try and make yourself more aware of what it is that you want yourself out of life, so that you can have the best possible life for you, because it has a huge impact on others. Don't wait. Don't keep waiting around saying, oh, I can't and I won't and it's not the right time. This man said to me when I was in the tech, and he was the wisest man I ever met, and he was a sub teacher, and he said to me, Michelle, no time's ever a good time. I was telling him that I had applied for my degree, and I was saying all the reasons that I shouldn't go. And he said to me, no time is ever a good time in your life to do anything, especially not when you've got a family and a job and responsibilities. Let's face it, there's a lot of shit out there to stop us in our tracks, but you're the one with the choice. Do you want that to stop you in your tracks, or do you want to just go for it? I'll never forget that, because I thought to myself, he spurred me on. I thought, you're right, because we do. There's that whole default thing, I can't, I won't, why not? Why not? So if I could give anybody a message, don't just exist. Get out there. If you think you want to do something else, don't worry about your age, because people focus on the age. Why would you do that, Michelle, at your age? If I heard that once, I heard that a zillion times. You should be happy at your age. You should be this at your age, blah, 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 blah. No, we shouldn't. If you want to do anything, just get out there and do it. Don't ask yourself for permission. Just bloody do it, because you will feel so much better. Your life is there for you, and you are totally responsible for making, and you have a duty to yourself to make yourself happy. Why should we be here to, on earth to make everybody else happy and just have this existence? We're not supposed to do that. We are supposed to live our lives to the full. So for anybody out there, forget all the negative things that people tell you or you think that are in your life. Go out there, embrace whatever opportunities, face your fears. If you want to do something and you think, oh, I shouldn't do that because Mary's going to think I'm a bit crazy about that. Who cares about Mary? Go you out there and show me. I bet you Mary will be a bit jealous that she didn't have the courage to embrace that like what you did. Life is for living. That's for definite. Just go for it. Go for whatever it is that you want. Doesn't matter if you even think it's crazy or weird or out there, whatever. Just do it. Like, seriously, do you want to look back, when you're 70 and say, I wish I had, why did I not? If only. No, that would make me sad, Pete. If only. No, I am definitely not going to say if only ever. So please, if anybody can take anything away, no, if only, when you're 70, get out there. Now is the time. Embrace it.
Jill, that's so incredibly powerful. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you for sharing your story, and I look forward to the book, and I look forward to everything else that's coming up. It's
Thank you for having me.
No, listen, it's great, and I your story's there, and it's lovely the way it's evolving, and you're evolving, and there's so much going on there, and I love the genuine passion that you carry with it, so fair play to you. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you very much. It was lovely, actually, Pete, and you're not as scary as I thought.
I'm taking that as a compliment. It's like,
yeah, there's the humor again. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Michelle, till the next time. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Good night, Pete. Bye. Bye.